Hello everyone, and welcome to my studio. Rhythm and gesture are, I believe, hard to define. As I looked up definitions to share with you, I never found a definition I liked, so I ended up making up my own definitions, which I think will serve our purposes. So let's discuss what rhythm is. My definition of rhythm is a musical expression in line. It is the way that you can express a line in a musical fashion. A straight line is not going to be as rhythmical or musical as a line that has curve to it. Now you can have straight lines that go in different directions that can have rhythm to them, but there needs to be some sort of change, some sort of musicality. And why is this important? This is one of the moments that we elevate our drawing or our painting to art, is when we see rhythm in nature and life, and when we act on what we see, or even exaggerate it in what we see. A gesture is a pose, position, or movement that forms an expression. They don't all have rhythm. Everything can be a gesture, but rhythm is exclusive. So with a gesture, everything is a gesture. Crossing your arms, reaching for the sky, stretching, bending over, twisting, sitting, that's all a gesture. And I know we're dealing more in landscape, so a tree that is tall and straight, or a tree crooked, or rocks stacked up in a more curved shape, anything like that, those are all gestures, but they might not all have rhythm. A man standing with his arms at his side has a gesture. You can describe him, he's a man standing over there with his arms on his side, but it might not necessarily have rhythm. So this figure is making a gesture, but it does not really have rhythm. Or it could be argued it doesn't have much rhythm. I guess you could argue anything has a fair amount of rhythm. So let's compare that to a shape like that. Let's say we're going to draw something like that. Can you see how I'm still drawing somewhat of a person here? Let's fill some of that in. But can you see how much more rhythmical those lines are than the other? Okay, let's get into what's making those lines rhythmical. Let's first talk about in just size of line. Take a look at these. Size, shape, pattern of a line. Just like you talked about, like in music, it's an arrangement or a pattern or duration. And if you look at these, you think about a drum beat. And if this was a drum beat and someone was hitting each one of those, bum, 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 it might be leading to something, but doesn't have much of an interesting rhythm to it, okay? Let's compare that to this. You think, what would that rhythm be? Like a bum, 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 like that. All right, I am not musical. I'm musical visually, but I'm not musical. So please forgive me, but I'm still trying to get the point across. This has a little more rhythm. Now, let's compare that to this. Can you see now we've not only given different syncopation or distance to each mark, but now we're also giving thickness and height. What a difference that makes. I won't go through each one. I wish I was musical enough to do it, but let's take a look at that and say, okay, visually now can you start to see that there can be musicality in your mark making? Now let's take it one step further. Interesting, as it keeps going, we're adding, we can go on and on and on and eventually make it look like probably an alphabet. And that is more in object spacing. But now let's talk a rhythm in line, just like in the last example, how they're not all straight. Okay, if I'm going to make a mark on my canvas or on my paper, and I draw that, certainly is something, but I wouldn't say it's a very rhythmical line. Okay, now let's say we do that. It's better, but let me compare that to Okay, that. Now, why is this more interesting? This is what's called a complex curve. If we take a look at this curve, let's go down this way, and then let's divide it. We'll divide this about in half. And if we measure this distance and this distance, can you see it's about equal? And so that's creating a boring rhythm. It's like sine, cosine, for you mathematicians. But let's compare with this one. If we take this one across and try to find about the center of where it starts changing direction, it's probably about in here. Can you see that? How that's making a much better, more interesting design. It's also not beginning and ending, staying within all the same height. One side's going higher, one's going a little lower. So you might be thinking, where are we going to use this? I use it everywhere. I use it when I look at a figure. I use it in an animal. I use it in a tree. You'll use this everywhere. You need to know the difference between the first example with the syncopated rhythm of mark making, because those could be trees. How are you going to lay trees, or how are you going to lay rocks in a rhythmic pattern? Or in this case, if you're going to draw a tree, you turn these on their side, and if you're going to draw a tree trunk, or even with these, a tree branch, and you don't have a complex curve, you're going to find that your tree branches are fairly boring. Or if you're going to follow the pattern of, let's say, a mountainscape, and let's say these aren't straight, but now you're going to do a mountain, you want to make sure that that mountain follows some sort of curve on its peaks, or otherwise it's not going to have an interest. Let's now take a look at some examples. Let's start with the Chalk-Cup brothers. And you can notice by the women, every woman has a different type of gesture. This painting would be really boring if every one of them was bent or doing the exact same thing. But they all have a different gesture, but they do have rhythm as well. And let's especially look at this child. Look at how the energy flows from the head to the foot. So if I start at the head, look at that flow down the body. That has a rhythm to it, real interesting. And if we take both sides, this has a very interesting rhythm. This arm has a nice rhythm. So we're always looking for, in our shapes, to find a way to have rhythm in them. They will have gesture if you do this, but you also want rhythm. Let's take a look at a different way you can have rhythm. If you look at this, these girls' gestures are just slightly different, even though they're enough different to create a lot of interest. But there is a different type of rhythm. There's a certain musicality or syncopation to the height of each girl and the spacing. If you think of these as musical notes, that they have different notes. Look at the distances. Some are closer, some are farther away, some are taller, some are shorter. That is going to create incredible interest in your painting, and your eye craves it. So when you're painting trees, bushes, other things, make sure that you have some sort of not only rhythm in their shape, but rhythm in their spacing and size. Even here, look at this nice little, like that dress goes that way, this dress goes that way. Look at the rhythm in those legs. Very interesting. And the Chalk-Cup brothers, not only is their color, once again, this color doesn't do this painting justice if you saw the real one, their color is magnificent. They spent so much time outside painting on location, but their design, they're not locked into being a photograph. If you just took pictures of these girls, you would never have as interesting of a design as if, I don't know how they came up with them, but if they went out, got all the color notes, and then did sketches of moments when they liked the girl in that great position, and then they put that together to make an interesting painting. Okay, so let's use this now that we looked at reference. Let's look at it. We'll first start with one similar to the first one. So these coconut trees all have a gesture and a rhythm. So they're really interesting when you look at them, that the fact that, this one flows that way, this one curls in a little and then comes that way, This one loops that way. This one comes here and this one comes here. Their spacing could be a little more interesting, the spacing of the bottom, but the spacing of the tops are very interesting. Look at the musicality of that rhythm. To me, that's really interesting shapes. Now we want to capture that, because if these shapes are repetitive at the same height or the same distance apart, we're not going to get the same rhythm. And then we also want to look into the gesture. These are being blown by the wind. So your first thought is, oh, a coconut tree kind of goes out like that. You don't want that. You want to look and see, what is it doing? It's got a big group mass at the top, and then it's got pieces coming out. That gesture is going to be far more interesting than if you were painting this out of your head. You need to look for that and find the differences. Find what makes that tree different than the other trees. They're coconut trees, pine trees. Every tree has such interest. Our cypress trees here on the coast of California, they're so interesting, but you have to look at it and look at its personality and look how it's different. Look for the musical notes of the spacing and the form in the trunks, in the branches, or in this case, the palms. And then look at the syncopation or the beat of the distance between.